I don't care how much you hate Americans, when in the US you should respect their customs, exactly as you demand Americans to respect yours, in your home country. Which is to say, fucking tip your waitstaff. I don't care if it's not how you do things back home. You're not back home, you're abroad. Behave accordingly, and understand that if you don't tip, that server suffers, not the business. You're not sticking it to anyone by not tipping, except that 16-year-old who worked for the money, or the single mom you just cheated out of her own earnings. Even more so than that, just cool it about small shit that doesn't affect you. The portions are too big, cool, take some leftovers. They wear their shoes inside their home, their rules. They have a gun safe. Okay, then if you're uncomfortable, go somewhere else. You're not obligated to like or agree with anything Americans do. But when you're in the US, you're a tourist. Keep that in mind. I see so many posts, rightfully, calling out badly behaved Americans when they're abroad. Just felt it's only fair to point out that foreign visitors to the US can be just as obnoxious. Edit. Nope, my mind isn't changed. If you refuse to tip, you're garbage. Keep boohooing in the comments about how you're not responsible for screwing over our waiters. We all know you're just trying to make yourselves feel better. I think if you're in a foreign land, you should respect their customs and ways. That one for sure. But my biggest complaint about people visiting the US, especially my home state of Colorado, dude, I don't care what you do in China, but here, you read the signs, stay on the trails, and put your goddamn trash in the trash cans. Edit. For everyone talking about how trails don't matter in AZ or Georgia or whatever, I'm just referring to the hordes of tourists in places with lots and lots of foot traffic like Rocky Mountain National Park. If everyone who visited there wandered off of the trails, they'd destroy the plant life, especially in the high mountain areas with slow-growing tundra. There's literally signs about it all over the place up there, but people don't give a shit. It's not just foreign tourists, it's also lots of Americans. I've lived in lots of places where it's not an issue. I just mean, if there's a multilingual sign telling you not to trample the grass, just don't trample the grass. It doesn't cost you anything to leave it nice for the next people to enjoy. I'm from California, I work at a law firm in a business area with lots of diners. I'm single and don't know how to cook, and so I rely on restaurants and takeout and other food facilities. I've become a regular at several places to the point where staff know who I am, what I'm going to order / I'm very much clockwork when it comes to my food habits, but I do try to rotate in a new restaurant each month / and my seating dining habits, as well as picking up after myself instead of leaving an ungodly mess on their tables during the middle of lunch rush hour. Some of them give me their employee discount of 10%, and obviously, I don't need the discount, but it's a nice gesture on their end to show that they appreciate my mannerisms towards them, and so I will always tip more than the 20%. So if you're going to preach that your mannerisms are superior to ours, I suggest that you observe ours. No one likes an asshole who thinks they're superior. Just treat your waitstaff in the culturally appropriate manner. I went to a restaurant during normal lunch hours. It was kinda windy and drafty as it was raining, so the restaurant wasn't dealing with even half its usual traffic. There were dining tables in the back for multiple people, and towards the entrance near the door the 1 and 2 seat tables. The waitstaff approached me to seat me towards the front near the door. I asked if they could seat me in the back because it was windy and every time the door opened a draft of wind hits you right in the back. The staffer said no, because those were for parties of 3 or more, so I said, okay thanks, and exited the restaurant. If you don't like it, just leave, don't be a scene-making ass. I live in Australia and I experience something similar. When tourists come to our beaches just to be loud and leave litter everywhere, it generates plenty of racism, which is shit. Either way though, there's nothing worse than injecting yourself as a tourist into other people's culture just to be a lazy prick. You gotta adapt. So, out of interest, would you tip even if the service was terrible? I would assume the majority of people not tipping genuinely are unaware of how poorly paid waitstaff are stateside. If they are aware and choose not to follow customs, then I agree with you. On the other hand, we always hear how America is land of the free. Aren't Americans free to tip how they please? Genuinely interested to hear your take on this. Dude, you're on point with this. It's unpopular out of the US, but totally right. If you go somewhere, don't disrespect customs, and that's the end of the story. Also, thank God you're not being bluntly xenophobic like so many people posting here are. They usually just defend themselves saying it's an unpopular opinion, guys. They have a gun safe. Isn't it more of an American stance? Gun safes are required in most countries. Fellow Americans, does anyone actually keep their shoes on in the house? I thought that was just a thing foreigners thought we did because they saw it on American TV shows. I know no one who just chills on the couch with their shoes on. Nor have I even heard of it. I 100% agree. I love how people call Americans cheap, but when faced with a $2 tip they'll feel like they're in jail. Former server/bartender here. I was at P.F. Chang's for a while. I wouldn't call it high class by any means, but the food is pretty authentic, which brought in many loyal Asian customers. And in many of the cultures of that world, it's all about family sharing meals together. There were 3 families that we had as regulars that numbered plus 25. Would come in every week and have a bill of at least $400. These families were obviously immigrants that had moved here. The younger generation of the families were very polite. The elder generation, who would pay, not so much. One family in particular was the most hateful, needy, and off-putting guest that I have ever witnessed/had. This same family had children that we would overhear in rushed English that would remind them to tip. The older people would just roll their eyes or shrug. It wasn't a part of their culture. Had a server that was in a tight spot financially. Told our boss that she needed some serious money in a short amount of time. We've all been there. Then this family comes up, and so many of us had already told our managers that we would refuse to serve, myself included. It should be stated that it wasn't a race deal. To those that have never served, 10 people can be very time consuming. You get a table of 20 plus by yourself, you're normally sent home afterwards. BC, you've both made twice your usual tips, and most importantly you've spent almost a full shift with just that one table. The tab at the end was over $850. The server got a $20 tip. The frustration and disappointment she felt kind of spread to the rest of us, and the next week the family came back to the only 3 servers on staff that day that all refused them. Caused such drama with corporate that they were fired, and we had a meeting. Thankfully the family never came back.